and reach its final destination. I have laid down a roadmap to exit from this crisis and to finalize that roadmap as requested by the young people and the Egyptian people under our constitution, and in keeping with it, in a way that will uphold then and guarantee the stability of Egyptian society to meet young Egyptians' needs, and will lay down a framework, a common framework within which we will work to transfer peacefully power under a responsible dialogue involving all forces of our Egyptian society, in an accountable way. This vision, this roadmap, will then include, take this country out of the troubles it is currently experiencing. I have committed to follow each and every step and phase individually by asking for support from all those who hold then the interests of Egyptian people dear to their hearts, in accordance with a national consensus that is broad. Under the supervision of our armed forces, we have begun and undertaken a constructive national dialogue, which will include young Egyptians who have called for change, and including all political forces in this country. That dialogue has led to an initial agreement which puts us then in good stead to exit from this crisis. We must continue this path to then lay down then a clear roadmap within a specific time frame, day in, day out. We are moving towards our peaceful transfer of powers from today until next September. That national dialogue will lay down a constitutional committee to review the amendments proposed to the Constitution, other legislative amendments. We will agree with a social committee that will be formed to oversee the enactment of my promises that I have taken before the Egyptian people. The two commissions or committees will comprise Egyptian independent figureheads and leaders who will uphold our national constitution in a just and fair way. In addition, given the number of martyrs we've lost and children during the dramatic events that have taken place and that have grieved us and that have shaken this country, given those developments and facts, I've ordered that we undertake an inquiry quickly by the Ministry of Justice. And yesterday, my initial report was filed to me on the initial constitutional amendments proposed, as then submitted by the commission that I have set up involving magistrates and legal experts. Regarding those legislative and constitutional amendments, and in accordance with then the proposals as laid down in the report filed by that commission, and in accordance with the prerogatives of the President of the Republic within our Constitution, I have asked the amendments of 6 articles within our Constitution, 67, 77, 88, 93, and 189. In addition, the annulment of Article 179 of our Constitution. While asserting here that I'm ready and willing to propose in the future an amendment of other then articles as that commission might propose then as and when necessary. Those amendments, which are priority amendments, aim to ease and smooth then candidacies for the president of then Egypt, and will lay down a small number of presidential terms of office and the need to oversee the elections that will come to in an accountable way in a regular and proper manner. Now, as then magistrates within their own terms of jurisdiction, as to the proposal to then delete Article 179 of the Constitution, this requires that we need to finalize and strike a balance to protect the country from terrorism, the dangers of terrorism, and to uphold civil freedoms and liberties. Then to lift the state of emergency and ensure then calm and stability again in the country. Dear fellow citizens, it is urgent that we reinstill trust between us and to regain then our economic reputation and status in the world. Our commitments towards change must not involve any turning backwards. We cannot accept that these events, dramatic events, continue with the damage that this has caused. What may lead the country, or could lead then the country, in which young people who have called for change, those young people will be the first victims of those events. What is happening does not involve me, Hosni Mubarak, but Egypt as a whole. Then, and the present and future of its children. All Egyptians are in the same situation today. We must continue the national dialogue that we have begun with a team spirit, then evolving all contention, so that Egypt can overcome this crisis, and so that our Egyptian economy can again then lead to greater trust and stability amongst our citizens, to move back to business as usual. In the past, I was a young Egyptian, just as other Egyptians are today. When I discovered then the military honors, I learned about loyalty towards my country and the duty to defend the sovereignty of our country. I experienced wars, victories and defeats. I experienced the occupation and victories and liberation. The happiest day was when I raised the Egyptian flag in the Sinai desert and confronted death as a combat air pilot. I never submitted to outside pressures. I oversaw peace and stability and security of Egypt and endeavored. In the interests of Egypt and its children, I never sought power then false power. The majority of Egyptians know who Hosni Mubarak is. I'm very sad to see that some of my brothers today and fellow citizens and what they say about me. I am very much aware of how delicate and tricky the situation is today, and I'm convinced that Egypt is experiencing a major, crucial phase in its history that requires us to prioritize the national interest and to place Egypt above and beyond all other considerations. To that end, We need to delegate then the prerogatives then of the vice president to the vice president under our constitution. The Egyptian people's will must not be broken. Egypt, through then all its children and sincerity of its children will overcome this crisis, and we will demonstrate, we Egyptians, our ability to meet the needs and wishes of the people through a civil and responsible dialogue. We will prove that we will listen to the Egyptian people and not listen to outside decisions or forces to meet the needs of our nation. This will demonstrate, we will demonstrate this by then listening to the will of the Egyptian people, then upholding the dignity of Egypt and the eternal forces that drive our country, which have been the philosophy and driving forces of our country for 7 millennia. These forces will continue as long as Egypt and its people, and that spirit prevails as long as Egypt and the people will survive under it. Its farmers, its citizens, its engineers, and in other walks of life, young people, old people, children, all religious confessions, and those who are not born yet. Let me again reassert that I have experienced and lived through for this country. The guarantor of Egyptian security, Egypt will remain and will overcome then these events. Egypt will remain until I transfer powers under my responsibilities. This is my life purpose and will remain so. Egypt will remain a fatherland dear to my heart, and that I cannot leave until I am buried in this country. And the Egyptian people will be a worthy people, eternally then bearing their heads high. May God preserve Egypt, preserve its security, and not step down. Thank you. Goodbye.
Well, there we go.